Welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about reimagining course discovery, everyone's favorite service at Open edX. So let's just talk about, quickly go over the agenda for this talk. The two main points that we're going to be touching upon: a very high level, 38,000 feet overview of discovery, what discovery is, what it's all about, what does it do, and can we use it for other use cases? Is this something that we're missing, or is there an opportunity that we haven't really capitalized on yet? So are there any other business use cases for discovery? Or can discovery act as an edX marketing platform? We'll talk about this as well. Just about something about me, my co-presenter, and the brilliant minds behind this talk, people who prepared this talk, prepared this presentation. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here right now. So me, Omar, and Irfan, we're going to be giving this presentation on their behalf. I'd be mostly talking about discovery, doing the intros, and then Irfan will take over regarding the more technical aspects of this talk. So what is course discovery? It's essentially a course cataloging service designed specifically for the Open edX platform, Open edX ecosystem. It consolidates metadata for different products in the Open edX ecosystem, such as it powers search data on edX.org. That's one use case for it. And it also catalogs APIs for external parties. At the same time, it also pushes data to other Open edX services, such as Studio and e-commerce. Some of the important components, and I'm sure a lot of you know about this already, but just giving an overview in case someone doesn't have a detailed insight regarding discovery. So it includes courses, program and degrees, partner organizations as well, course editor, and a lot of search-focused information. Sorry, I'm just going to skim through a lot of the intro, and we'll get to the in-depth meaty bits in a bit. So it is essentially data loaders for ingesting other data services, as I said, Studio, e-commerce, also analytics. It also has capabilities for data instances, for which we use Elasticsearch for cataloging, and Algolia on edX.org. Some of the examples of how edX.org is using service, as you can see from the program and degrees drop-down, we can see different categories, for example, executive education, professional certificates, master's degrees. And you can also see there's a small badge next to some of them that says new. That's something that we'll touch upon later in the talk. And that also connects to the point regarding the discovery being able to use discovery as a marketplace. So as you can see, this is a program, but there is no enroll now button. This means that you can just enroll it right here. It's probably going to take you to a third-party service, which is Get Smarter at this point. And you kind of just enroll now. This is one of the no enroll options, where you request a brochure and post in an application, and then you will be, they will get back to you with enrollment opportunities. So new products, like I said, regarding the new badge, we do have new products on edX.org, such as the no enrollment option, which we just saw. And there are new edX partner onboards, such as Get Smarter for executive education. So since edX, we're going to be talking about edX a lot. We're using edX as a case study for this. So since edX was acquired by 2U, we have a lot of new products coming in to edX. We're having to do a lot of integration. And at some point, we were directing users to third-party clients such as Get Smarter, which also means that we are showing third-party content using discovery, which wasn't done before. So which means that products that are on edX.org but are consumed off-site. And edX.org is powered by Discovery. That's what you see when you go to that page. So as I said, there is capability in Discovery to market or showcase product from third-party application. And that was the main eureka moment. The brilliant minds behind the curators of this presentation had that because we've done something similar, maybe Discovery can be used as an opportunity for creating a marketplace. At this point, I'm going to hand things over to our designated technical driver to take the wheel and take things forward. You want this mic? Okay. Turn this off. You turn this on.
It's fine. Doesn't work? Okay. Okay, can everybody hear me? People at the back? Yeah, okay, thanks. So as Umar pointed out, Discovery as a marketplace is an interesting idea that people who have worked with Discovery integrating 2U courses, which are hosted by Get Smarter, to be available and discovered through Discovery. So we thought we can maybe extend that to other platforms. The idea being that for a regional deployment of edX or Open edX, you can consolidate courses from other Open edX deployments into one regional Discovery site also. However, there are challenges that need to be considered. For example, Discovery. How many of you have worked with Discovery? No, raise hands. Okay, great. Yeah, so Discovery is an interesting service. It has, although it's a data aggregator, but there are also multiple sources of truth within the edX ecosystem, and all of them then feed back into Discovery. There are, you have all heard of the refresh course metadata jobs. We call them RCMs. So there are these kind of a cyclic data synchronization between Discovery, Studio, and e-commerce. How many people are familiar with Studio and e-commerce? Okay. So people who are totally not understanding what I'm saying right now? Okay. Yeah. So Discovery is the service that that is the data aggregator, where you discover, as Umar pointed out, all the courses. Studio is the service, the application where you are able to change course offering and so on. And e-commerce is the e-commerce financial side of things. So there are multiple sources of truth. That means data gets changed in all of these three places, and then you have it has to be kept synchronized. So, for example, scheduled dates, they are required by Discovery on creation. However, they can be updated in Studio and then have to be synced back. Also, for development, Elasticsearch is something that currently is required. So this is a visual. Hold on. Yeah, it's a visual of some of the data movement that occurs within Discovery. For example, all of these are feeding into Discovery, and then Then there are these synchronization jobs that are going back into discovery as well. So it's a complex kind of a synchronization architecture. However, now what we are suggesting and what we are proposing is that we add another and many other systems in addition to whatever we have already. And so you can imagine the problem to become a bit more complex, more arrows, all of them changing data and data being updated in multiple systems and so on. So in that scenario, how do we keep the system going? Yeah. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, in presentations, usually when there's arrows like this, the next slide has all the arrows pointing generally in the same direction.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Yeah. No, yeah, but interesting observation. That's something that was discussed in one of the Open edX groups, and that was essentially, in a perfect world, that should happen. But normally in systems that have grown organically, this is the kind of arrows that you see. Again, some more challenges there are in discovery. For example, you need to set up courses. For example, if you have a course, you have to set it up in Discovery, Studio, LMS, e-commerce, all of them. So many areas get to be changed. Similarly, we have two versions of course and course run objects. So there is a draft version where all of the course authors are working on, and then there is the non-draft version, which is feeding the production site. So and then there are, and if you forget to, for example, set the draft when you're calling from API, so interesting things can happen. Things don't become visible on the production site, and you have to be very careful how you use the draft and non-draft while calling APIs and so on. Okay. So again, in this environment, in all of these challenges, we have actually integrated one, the executive education courses from Get Smarter to be discovered from Discovery and be offered from Get Smarter. So to extend that, what we ideally want is a friction-free integration architecture for adding any other Open edX site so that courses and other products can be discovered there. So how many people would say that multiple sources of truth environment is a good architecture? None? How many would say a single source of truth architecture is a good? Yeah, that's what I was told also, and I think that's what everyone seems to suggest. But how do you implement a single source of truth? So imagine the scenario: you have an environment, Open edX environment, and then there is the Get Smarter or some other environment. And of course, there are that both are being managed in separate organizations and have their associated supporting processes and so on. And imagine what you're telling those other guys that, we are the source of truth, and you are not the source of truth. So we will tell you what the truth is. So that in that environment, how can you deploy a single source of truth architecture? because you will definitely run into people issues and process issues, and it will probably not work. So you end up with a multiple source of truth environment anyway. And then you have to think about how to manage your data in that environment. You can't just say, this is single source of truth. You can't do anything. You have to listen to us for everything. So then, in a multiple source of truth environment, there are going to be conflicts for data, and how you resolve them is also what we are. Some of the one option is you partition the data, so you isolate the conflicting parts, and then you have some conflict resolution mechanism, which everybody agrees to. And any other alternates that come to mind? Yep.
This is a very thought-provoking question, and I can't tell if this is germane to just some sort of data management process or practice, or are you talking about something a lot more general?
Okay. Yeah. So essentially, we want to, in a general sense also, but mostly in a discovery integration scenario, we want to integrate courses from many sites, open edX sites, into one discovery environment to be discovered by learners. In that case, we are going to be running into a conflict resolution issue. So the question is, are there any, one obvious solution is to partition the data. What could be some other options?
Well, at some point you want your students to think for themselves and to compare and evaluate the different sources for themselves, and maybe be able to synthesize and integrate some sort of combined message based upon all sources.
Yeah. So what we want to leverage is, let's say it's a very popular site, edX.org, or some regional popular site where all of the learners go and discover what. So there's going to be lots and lots of content that needs to be discovered. So hence we want to leverage the popularity of that site. And then once they have selected what they want to learn, we want to send them maybe to their other sites where the product is actually hosted.
Well, it sounds like you're talking about curation of courses.
Yes, but on a federated scale. So other alternates that could be more radical than maybe a typical data partition could be maybe a blockchain environment, which would be the other end of the other extreme, and there could be a very simple optimistic eventual consistency model also, which could be employed for this use case. Any questions up till now? Nope. Okay. So now what I'm going to go over is, based on this approach, multiple sources of truth, we are going to go over in detail about, in a bit of detail, on all of the impacted areas within discovery. So this is going to be a bit more deep into some of the model levels. So impacted areas would be data models in discovery, data ingestion, how data goes into discovery, the indexing of the data in discovery, and the open edX connectivity of discovery. So first I'll go over the data models. So currently we only have content metadata. So for the architecture, for a federated architecture to work, we would need to, and we are going with the partitioning of data approach. So we'll have to categorize the data fields into maybe internal core metadata, the external metadata, the one coming from the third-party site, and the search metadata, which is the data, the view on the data which goes to the index for searching. And then we also need a product classification, which is based on the third party's classification of their products. So some people call it a verified course, some call it a paid course, some call it something else. So all of those classifications would need to be mapped using this model. Then a line of business classification is, for example, you have a course, you have a degree, you have executive education boot camp, you have something else. So that is a line of business classification. So all of these need to be then added to discovery to be able to support. And product source also, which defines which third party is accessing the product. So I will go into a bit detail of all of the changes. So for the core internal metadata that we are proposing is you would need some of these core fields, which are title, description, learning outcomes, cost, price, instructors, and so on. So these are fields that are core and would be helping the learners to decide on if they should be taking that product. One of the things that we can currently do is, so all of the product statuses in the product pipeline. So if you are familiar with the product pipeline in discovery, typically the course is, as a first status, is unpublished, then it goes through a legal review, then it goes through a project coordinator review, and then it gets scheduled or published. And some of those statuses are based on dates. So automatically, those dates can change the status of a product. And sometimes coordinators, due to mistakes, and people not realizing what those dates would trigger, we can end up with courses being closed too soon or offered too soon, and so on. So one of the things that we can do as an optimization for the internal metadata is to give more control to manually flip those statuses as well. And then the external metadata, which is coming from the third-party site. So what we are proposing is that we can store them as name and value attributes, and those are associated with the external metadata, which is another model. We also store the external site's URL and their identifier. Then for the search metadata, so these are the fields that will be used, and these could be based on the internal fields or the external fields, and a view on top of that, which goes into, let's say, your indexing engine. And we could use something like the content type framework to be able to connect all of those fields together. And then the product source is essentially which third-party system the product in the catalog belongs to. It can be used to process the product. For example, some of the products may not require a legal review. Some can be directly published. Some can, and so all of those exceptions can be triggered based on this product source that we are proposing. And then finally, the product line classification. It's essentially one more level of indirection. So we are adding this product line, which is executive education, degree. Currently, we only have one line, which is actually two, course and programs. But we can add executive education, degree, and so on. So for example, for executive education, you can add classifications as micro course, bootcamp, and so on. Any questions up till now? Yep.
So with this product line, is this the way that you would want it to be designed, or is this just the nature of what people have asked for? Like, I've heard of flex degrees, which is a very confusing thing that doesn't really fit into this model super well.
So you just create a flex degree. That's a line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You can solve any problem with one level of indirection. So that's what we have done. And those classifications, they are triggered from the third parties' nomenclature of how they tag their products. Okay, so this is what I've been telling you, a visual representation. The three metadatas at the bottom, they could be proxy models as well, so that we don't have separate physical tables. And then there's the product source, and then product classification. And each external metadata can have a number of attributes that are specific to that third party. Should I move on? Any questions on this? Okay. So the second area that will be impacted is the data ingestion. So data ingestion is how you add data to discovery. There is bulk ingestion using CSV data loaders that are currently being used for the exec ed case. And there could be a generic interface for bulk data in the system. We also propose to then provide a unified API across all the third parties to update the products. And this could be an event-driven, bus compatible. How many of you have used the event bus? None? Okay. Yeah, it's. I think it's going to be used a lot in the coming months, and maybe earlier also. So currently, Discovery uses Algolia, and all the catalog queries are stored as Elasticsearch queries. So one of the things that we would need to do for a federated architecture would be to divorce the indexing engine from discovery. So we would want to have multiple indexing engines to be supported. And that would give us flexibility in defining what is indexed and to what depth and with what breadth. Okay, and the last part that will be impacted is the open edX connectivity. So what we are suggesting is that we control how data is pushed to all those third-party sites. And we propose to use a dynamic set of attribute value type pairs using OAuth as the authentication mechanism. So this is very similar to the partner model in discovery. So many of these things have already been, there are ADRs already in GitHub for many of these things, and work has already started on some of these proposals. So this is a visual representation of the third-party data that discovery will push. And sources could, for example, source 1 opted for data, and source 2 and source 3 they didn't opt for a data push. So that's something that could be configured. So final slide. Discovery has an open edX-centric design, and it's a bit challenging to seamlessly represent products that are delivered from external sites. However, it's a great opportunity to align discovery as a product marketplace. And given the kind of data, we can go with a eventually consistent, we don't have to do a blockchain on this. We can do a eventually consistent conflict resolution mechanism for this integration. And we are quite hopeful that this would be helpful for regional deployments to consolidate data, for example, at the country level, for all of the deployments in that country, to be able to discover all of that content that is available in that country, for example, things like that. Thank you very much. That's all.
No questions? Oh, here's one. Caleb?
So all of these tools seem really helpful to be able to have different options to only see, like you said, in a country or something like that. It has, just from my observation, different users of discovery have seemed to find it valuable to have the combination of discovery as a source of truth and then another CMS of their own, for example. Do you have any recommendations about either A, how to do that well, or how to have a tool like their own CMS and then use discovery to like pull that data in? Or in your ideal situation, would that second CMS not exist and just all the data would come from discovery?
Depends where that second CMS resides. Is it part of the same organization, then you can maybe have more control over what you can and cannot do with that CMS. If it's in a different organization, so then you don't have too much control. Then you cannot dictate to them too much. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions?
Thank you for this. In the architecture, you said there is an event bus too. So, are we doing mostly push to discovery, or is it doing a pull like discovery? No, are we sending all of the data through CSV files, or is there an opportunity where the CMS systems, the third-party CMS systems, could publish the changes to an event bus, and then discovery figures out there is a change and then updates it?
Yes, that could happen. Currently, that path doesn't exist.
The path doesn't exist, but you mentioned there is an event bus for the edX?
Yes, there is an event bus, but the events on that bus are currently not too many.
Okay. But there is a possibility for...
There is a possibility,
okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you again, presenters.
Okay, thank you.